The following is a project of our nonprofit newsroom. Support Midcoast Morning and local community-centered journalism today by signing up to be a monthly sustaining donor at chly.ca/donate. It doesn't take much money to support local news.
Hello and welcome to Midcoast Morning. I'm Joe Pugh. A Buddhist butler mixed up in murder, a decade off-grid on a remote island, and the journey to self-publishing. We're going to be exploring the experience of some of the many authors living in and around Nanaimo on today's program. In addition to penning 15 books, Susan Juby teaches creative writing at Vancouver Island University. Her latest novel, A Meditation on Murder, released last month, and she joined me to discuss the experience. What's it like being an author in Nanaimo who's releasing a book in 2024?
You know, there's lots of different ways to reach readers now. A lot of my experience of having a new book come out is particular to me in this moment. So generally I would do a launch party for a book, but I have, I teach full-time at VIU. And so I just didn't have time to get anything together for a launch party. So I went to Monroe's in Victoria to do a co-launch with two other writers, Kate Hilton and Elizabeth Renzetti. But I have been able to visit bookstores all over the island. So do this little micro tour thing. Many bookstores. We have the most incredible selection of booksellers on this island. And then you can do all kinds of things on the internet. So my experience of doing this is a little unconventional. One of the things I did that's going to make me sound like I'm disordered in some fundamental way is I reach my readers on Facebook a fair bit. I've been active on there tragically for almost since it was invented. And so the readers know me pretty well. So I put up a little, a photo of a suit I was interested in buying. It's a velvet suit covered in embroidered ducks from Brooks Brothers. And I just posted it. I said, oh my God, isn't this just amazing? And it's on sale for only, like $748. And so somebody suggested, a student of mine, Sean Enns, who's a great local playwright, said, you should do a GoFundMe for that suit, because even I won't spend $748 on a velvet duck suit. So I did. And the readers each contributed, anywhere between $5 and, some people contributed more than that. And so the readers bought me this duck suit in a matter of 12 hours, or maybe it was 24 hours. So that was a really fun thing to launch the book, is that I now had this duck suit that I could take around while I was doing promotional activities. Doesn't fit particularly well, but so that's the kind of thing you can do now, is just sort of get everybody on board with some weird project that's not even directly related to the book. I mean, the book is partly about influencers.
I was about to say, yeah, it almost feels deliciously ironic, given that the book is about influencers and online culture is maybe a major theme, and in a way where you really get the vibe that you're trying to say something about it that makes it surprising to hear. Let's get the readers on board with getting the duck suit.
Exactly. That's the fun part. But the book has a sort of a different take on the internet, the larger harms of the internet.
What were you trying to say, or what do you want people to know about maybe the online world in 2024?
Well, I think people know a lot about the online world. I do, I have a real sort of a deep discomfort with the sort of rage farming that has been going on for, almost since the beginning of the internet, but it's certainly picked up its pace. And so this idea that people really respond on a almost, hereditary level to being angry, like that is the button that everybody likes to press to get us all angry. And so to write this book, I read a lot of research on focus, concentration, emotional well-being, where we put our attention, books like Shallow and Stolen Focus and How to Break Up with Your Phone. And all of those books are really interesting about what internet culture is doing to us. Like, some of it's fun, some of it's duck suits, but a lot of it is really, really bad for our ability to be present in the world, to, it stops us from, what do they say on the internet? Go touch grass. Well, it really makes it hard for us to go touch grass because it feels like we might miss something. So the book is really, it's kind of wading around in those waters about the good parts of the internet, the connection, the fun, the audience engagement, but also the parts where it takes away the deeper part of our experience of life.
I'm also curious about place, which kind of goes hand in hand with that idea of touching grass. Your book, it's set in various parts of BC, including a little bit here on Vancouver Island. We're used to, maybe in the world of screen content, TV shows, movies, we're used to things getting filmed around here as a stand-in for places in the United States. As a writer, is there any kind of, like commercial pressure to do the same kind of thing?
No, all of the books that I've written have been set in Canadian locations, mostly small Canadian locations where I've lived. So my first 3 books were set in Smithers, BC, which is where I grew up. And almost every book since then has been set either in or around Nanaimo, or in the case of these murder mysteries about Helen Thorpe, Buddhist butler detective. Those are set sort of close to here. So the first one's set on an island that looks a lot like Cortez. A meditation on murder is set in Vancouver, and a fictionalized ranch in the interior. And I'm just now finishing up a 3rd book in the series, and it is set just off the coast of off in the harbor in Nanaimo. So I've invented 2 islands, and we'll take all sorts of liberties with the geography of Nanaimo. So no pushback at all. People seem to like it. They seem to like reading about different places. And I mean, my work is peculiar enough that no one expects me to write sort of a big commercial novel set in an unnamed American city. It's just not what I'm interested in.
You talked already a little bit about how Vancouver Island is full of neat bookstores. I'm curious about the writing community in and around Nanaimo. I know writing is obviously a very solitary thing at times, but is there a community of writers?
Yeah, there is. I'm fortunate in that I teach creative writing at VIU, and so I'm surrounded by young and new writers all the time. So that part, that's very inspiring. They, inspire me, engage me. I think they get inspired and engaged by each other, and they often leave our program with I think for a lot of them, lifelong connections of writers who go off in all kinds of different directions. And then there are my colleagues who are there's a lot of fantastic writers at VIU who teach in the program at VIU, and we have a pretty lively literary community in this town. Everybody from around the town tellers to Wordstorm, there's all sorts of people doing literary things. Joy Googler, who's a publishing faculty at VIU, hosts a number of different events that happen each year. So yeah, I think we have a pretty healthy literary community. It's difficult now because there's not a lot of review spaces for books the way there used to be. I'm grateful that our local papers still try to cover the arts, but in the larger sense of review space has sort of disappeared. Books are a tricky area right now.
Is there anything else you'd like to let people know about being a Nanaimo author?
Yeah, I guess what I would say is you can be an author anywhere, but Nanaimo is a particularly good place. It's a friendly, welcoming artistic community. The arts are happening all over the place in Nanaimo. You will find your people. I would also say that when we moved here, housing prices were a factor, so that I could have a place to write, a large enough space to have a place to write. And Nanaimo's expensive, but it's still not as expensive as some places where other writers, I know writers who are moving to places like the Sunshine Coast and Nanaimo and whatever, in order to be able to afford a house. Nanaimo is also a place where lots of fascinating stories happen. You can come here and get inspired by all sorts of things. So I just invite anyone. And if you're a writer, you can write anywhere, but you might as well write somewhere that's extremely beautiful. And that's what Nanaimo is.
Susan Juby speaking to me about being an author in Nanaimo and her latest book, A Meditation on Murder.
Midcoast Morning is made possible by the Community Radio Fund of Canada's Radio Meters program and listeners like you. Support Midcoast Morning and CHLY's nonprofit newsroom today by becoming a sustaining donor at chly.ca/donate. Local news can't survive without your support. Another way to help us out is to share this show with your friends and tell them why they should support us. Finally, if you're listening to the podcast edition of Midcoast Morning, go and give us a positive review on Apple Podcasts or whatever podcast feed you use. It helps people find us.
Today on the show, we're in conversation with authors in and around Nanaimo. That's where you'll find Bea and John Dowd now, but for a decade of their lives, they were living off the grid on the west coast of an island in Clayoquot Sound, west of Tofino. Those experiences have turned into a new book, Escape to Clayoquot Sound. The Dowds came down to the CHLY studio to chat about it.
I'm John Dowd, and I have been living on the island for the last 20 years. We have been living on the island for the last 20 years, actually.
Me. Here I am, Bea Dowd. I'm here too.
Yeah, we and for 10 of it, we lived on Vargas Island, off Tofino, about 8 miles north of Tofino.
And you lived on this island for a decade, kind of off the grid, away from things. Can you tell me maybe how this journey, this maybe solitary time in your lives, came to be a book now?
Well, we were empty nesters. Our kids had grown up, taken off, doing their own things, and we'd always wanted to live on a remote place, off-grid, which we had experience of that in the interior, but we always wanted to be by the sea. I stumbled on this place when I was working on a different project, a video about sea kayaking, which was my prior specialty. And I told Bea about it, showed her photographs, and the rest is history, as they say.
What is it about this experience, this 10 years of your lives, that you want to share with people in this book?
I think, for me, it was the surprise of the community that came through this remote beach in the summers. These were largely people we knew of, or who knew us through our business or through our writing. And that was a surprise to me, and I had not expected that.
Well, we know Clayoquot Sound is a kayaker's mecca. It's also a mecca for salmon fishers. And we know, it is a gorgeous place, but also a delicate environment. And although we were, the cabin we occupied was on a piece of private land within a provincial park reserve, it's still threatened. There are threats all over Clayoquot Sound, basically, the fish farms. There's even a potential mining development for copper.
And there's political intrigue. It's a polarized, or it has been a polarized community.
Yeah, there's still logging.
There's a lot of logging there, and you think, Clayoquot Sound, we won.
A biosphere reserve. We've got it nailed, but there are still threats. So that needs to be stated and restated.
And we didn't want to make our book a strident advocacy book. We were. It's much more personal than that. It's about our friends, our family, and what we did over 10 years. And what we learned.
What we witnessed over 10 years, too.
The witnessing part's important, isn't it? You're right.
Yeah. What did you witness over those 10 years that stuck with you?
Well, we witnessed a change in the community. When we arrived there was one type of person was visiting the beach. When we left, it had completely changed.
And can you tell me what the process of publishing this book is like, if taking a story that is local to here, personal, something from your lives, and turning it into a book that I'm holding in my hands right now in the studio and is going to presumably go to bookstores around the island, etc.
And hundreds and thousands of them sold in the next 6 months, yes. It evolved out of, I had sent off an outline of a memoir to my current publisher, and they looked at it and said, maybe we'd be interested in that part.
Being a regional part. The rest of it was international.
Yeah, it was
not what they were looking for.
Most of my memoir was about international stuff all over the world, South America and Africa and things. And really, they zeroed in on the local aspect, which was 10 years living on Vargas Island. And they said, have you got any pictures? Or no, they didn't say that at that stage, did they? Eventually they realized we had pictures, and it evolved from a little book into a big glossy that you can...
with 200 pictures.
Yeah. That's it. We had not expected.
Yeah,
and we had not expected, and we had not taken photographs with the intent of publishing a book. It hadn't occurred to us.
Nor had we kept journals. You see, this is based on what we recalled and the correspondence we kept and the house notes we kept. So we had to piece it together largely from memory, which made things interesting because we sometimes recalled things quite differently.
Sometimes, no, that's not correct. Every time we recorded it differently, and it was Combat Zone, as we tried to sort out. So we're both. Beatrice is an editor and a proofreader, and I am a writer who can't spell very well, but is very prolific. So it's fertile ground for disagreement.
What do you hope people take away from reading about your experiences?
It was a good deal. I hope what they will really take away from it is that this is a beautiful place. It's worth protecting, and it is something that is within most people's reach if they have the will to do it.
And if they don't have the will to do it, they can still experience it vicariously.
Yeah, they can enjoy the book, I hope. And there's a lot of, I mean, as we wrote it, there was laughter and there were tears as we wrote it. And other people find the same thing. It's not just, we planted the garden here and this did that. It was all
it is a
personal thing.
Very personal memoir.
Bea and John Dowd have shared their experiences from a decade living remote and off-grid in the new book, Escape to Clackwood Sound. We're hearing from some local authors on today's show. If you're looking to get a book out there, one option is to self-publish. That's the route Ashley Kuramoto took. The kindergarten teacher is getting ready to launch a fourth book in her Little Adventures on Vancouver Island series. This one will focus on the parks of North Nanaimo.
My name is Ashley Kuramoto, and I am the author, illustrator, and publisher of Little Adventures on Vancouver Island.
And can you tell me the story of the latest Little Adventure on Vancouver Island?
My latest one is Nanaimo North, and it was supposed to be Nanaimo overall, but as you know, if you're from Nanaimo, there are so many parks and incredible spaces that I've had to split it up into two books.
And so the book is made up of kind of these scavenger hunts that folks can go and do across these different parks, in this case, Nanaimo North. How did you come to the idea of creating these?
My first edition was from taking my master's at Queen's University, and I had this incredible author named Gary Raspberry. He is a Juno-nominated singer-songwriter, and he is one of the most incredible people I've never met in person. And I took a creative course, and he said you could do anything. Like someone made wreaths for their creative project, and I've always wanted to write a book. And I thought, I'm paying to be in this course about creativity. What is stopping me now? There's no more excuses. So I went for it. And funny enough, I didn't actually finish my first book during that course, but Gary is so supportive. He said, I know you're going to finish it. Just go for it and let me know when you're done. And I didn't realize how much work it is to create a book. And I'm also the illustrator, and I've never drawn except for my kindergarten students. So purchasing an iPad and an Apple Pencil because I thought I could do it all by hand. You can, but it's a lot more work to get your pencil and paper image out electronically. And then going through the whole publisher business, financially, it's such an undertaking. And I decided to do it myself, and it's free. So if you're wondering how to create a book and make an ISBN and all that, you can message me on Instagram. But it's really easy once I figure out how to do it.
There are a number of parks in this book. I wanted to ask you about a few questions about the parks of North Nanaimo. First of all, do you have a favorite?
My favorite park is the Forest Drive Gyro Park. And you wouldn't know it's there because it's surrounded by an apartment building and houses. And you go down this teeny tiny little alley, and it just like opens up to this epic park that has paved little trails. So if you have wheels or skateboard, scooter, bike, you can do loops, basketball court, hockey, net, and it has a toddler section and like a more intermediate or very brave toddler section. And I love how it looks natural. There's lots of logs and trees on it, and it's fairly new and it's accessible, which I love as well. And it's just, there's so much to do there, and you can spend the whole day there. Unfortunately, there's no bathroom, which I found a lot of the Nanaimo parks don't include, but it's definitely one of our favorites.
Did you find anything, you mentioned there maybe a lot of them don't have a bathroom, but other than that, were there any big commonalities or anything that maybe stood out compared to parks in other places to make something a Nanaimo park?
That's a really good question. I think what I love about Nanaimo is there's so many parks because my third book was located in Parksville, and you'd think that's a place that is full of parks. It has parks, but not a lot of playgrounds, whereas Nanaimo, I looked at the map and I just was blown away by how many there are. I'm like, there's no way I can put this all in one book because my book can only be so big. So I think just the sheer number of parks in Nanaimo was incredible to see, and it shows that the city puts that first. Like, families are important, and they are, like, you can really see the care and dedication that they put into these playgrounds. And I feel like a lot of them are accessible, which is wonderful as well, because we want everyone to be able to enjoy them. And I feel like other cities and regions can really learn from Nanaimo and how many parks there are.
Did you come across on the other end of the spectrum maybe a park that you feel like Nanaimo really needs to jazz up or something?
Oh, for sure. I think there's definitely some parks I'm like, oh, I'm a little nervous to put this in there because it's a little bit old. I think the biggest one that really surprised me that hasn't been updated is the one that's on Long Lake. It's very old. It's not very exciting, but I think they're more focused on the swimming space, not the playground. But I think there's an opportunity for it to be this amazing space that has everything. I think a curious clue on that one is that there's chessboards like built into the tables, which I love. I think why not just have that in every table? It's such a great thing to have there, or chess, I should say, and checkers. And but that one, I can't imagine it would be there in the next couple of years. Like, it's either need to be taken out because unsafe, or it needs to be jazzed up a bit.
And I understand you're going to be out in the community launching your book. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, so I think one of the most important places in a community besides parks and outdoor spaces is the library. It's a free resource. There's more than just books. There's so many cool things that you can do, and every library is different, which I love. I am going to be launching my book at the North Nanaimo Library, and they're going to have a few stations out, a gears kit and a playground engineering kit, as well as loads of Lego. And they're going to have a craft station set up as well. And I'm going to have a face painting station. I've reached out to a face painter, and they're going to pop in and paint faces. And there's going to be other giveaways and prizes and other stuff that's happening. But I think the most important thing obviously getting my book out there, but just telling people about how cool the library is and that you should go to your library and check it out. I think there's so many places that could have done it, but I think the library is such a great free resource for everyone, and I want more people to go to the library and enjoy it and take out books and
Ashley Kuramoto is a teacher and author of the Little Adventures on Vancouver Island series. That's our show for the day. Thank you for joining me. I'm Joe Pugh, host and producer of Midcoast Morning. Jesse Woodward is our executive producer, and Arby Frew is our technical advisor. You can sign up for CHLY's newsletter at chly.ca/subscribe for updates from our nonprofit newsroom and more. Our theme song is First One by local Nanaimo band Waste Management. If you have a story you'd like us to cover, email us at news@chly.ca. That's all for now. I'll talk to you on another Midcoast Morning.
Midcoast Morning would not be possible without the funding of the Community Radio Fund of Canada's Radio Meters program and listeners like you. Midcoast Morning is a project of CHLY's nonprofit newsroom. Support nonprofit journalism in Nanaimo and on the Salish Sea today by becoming a monthly sustaining donor at $5 or more per month. Support the program at chly.ca/donate. If you're already a supporter, record a voice memo telling others where you're listening from and why they too should support our work. After you're done, you can email it to us. Also, share the podcast with your friends. While Meta is blocking Canadian users from sharing news content on their Facebook feeds, you can still share our podcast directly with your friends via Facebook or Instagram Messenger. Finally, this program acknowledges and gives thanks to the Nanaimo First Nation as we broadcast and podcast from their traditional territory. Thanks for listening.